All right. Welcome to the Viking Age podcast. I'm your host, Adam Patrick. I'm the editor and lead writer for the Viking Age. And as always, I'm joined by Chris Schad, who writes for us here at the Viking Age, as well as zone coverage. And bring me the news real quick before we get started today. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. And then also make sure to follow the Viking Age on Twitter and Facebook. Before we get into it today, Chris, you're in South Dakota. How are we doing out there? You getting ready to just get snowed in?
Well, yeah, so from my apartment. Sorry, I had to check the window because I've been watching throughout the morning. But if I look outside the window to my current office, which will be different in a couple weeks, hopefully, we're still waiting on cleaning crews and everything. The weather has just been kind of crappy, so they haven't been able to get it ready. But there's a grain elevator if I look out the window of my office, and progressively I have been seeing less and less of it. So it's one of those deals like in town, you don't think it's that bad. But if I were to like drive on I-29 down to I-90 to go home, bad idea.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to my dad about, going home for Christmas yesterday. And he's like, you'll know within the first 30 minutes. Like, you jump on the highway and you're just like, oh shit, this is a bad idea. So nothing too bad. I mean, you have different types of trade. Like you have all the traffic jams and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're heading up to Los Angeles or whatever, out here, like there's no traffic. It's just, you might die because it's about, let's check the temp, -15. So
oh god, and feels like probably like -30 or whatever. One of those.
Yeah. I mean, that's the main headline of the doom and gloom. It's you could travel, but you'll probably die. So
yeah, when it rains out here, people drive like idiots. I mean, they already drive like idiots out here, but like they drive like when that first snowfall hits. I remember like living back east when that first snowfall hits, and people still think they can drive 80 on the highway, and you're like, and they quickly learn you cannot do that. That's how people are in the rain out here. They're like, oh, I'm hydroplaning. I probably shouldn't go as fast because when it rains out here, it's like a monsoon, but because it doesn't rain as much. But yeah, we don't get that white stuff. All right, moving on to the Vikings. Yesterday, the rosters for the AFC and NFC for the first annual Pro Bowl games were revealed, and the Vikings had 5 players listed as, I guess, starters. I mean, I don't know what's a starter and what's not for the games.
I'm confused as to how it works. I heard like Peyton and Eli Manning are like drafting teams, but then I heard it's like conference affiliations. So like I don't really know what's happening.
Are
they fighting to the death? Are they,
But you know what? It's not going to matter because the Vikings players aren't going to play it anyways. They're going to be busy in February. So, but the 5 players named to the NFC roster from the Vikings are Kirk Cousins, T.J. Hawkinson, Zadarius Smith, some guy named Justin Jefferson, and their long snapper Andrew DePaula. Any of those a surprise to you? I mean, Justin Jefferson, no one thought he was going to make it, but he somehow made it by the skin of his teeth.
He's still there. Andrew DePaula is a little weird, but I mean, like football guys know a little bit more than I do when it comes to that stuff. So I mean, I don't know if they're playing flag football, like what is Andrew DePaula going to do there? Like, and I'm sure, and I'm not trying to slight the guy. I'm not at all. Like, I'm just confused about this format. Like, you don't punt in flag football. Like, so what is he going to do? Is he just going to is like one of the events arm wrestling or something, and he's just going to rip somebody's arm off? Like, I
wonder if there's a
confused, I guess, is my problem.
I wonder if there's like a kicking competition. Yeah. Maybe he'll be the snapper or whatever. Have they always had long snappers get picked for the Pro Bowl? I don't think I've ever noticed. Maybe just because the Vikings.
Yes.
I don't think they have. Okay. All right. Never mind that.
Yeah, I mean, they have a special teamer. So, I mean, like, there's like a gunner that makes it. So, like, Matthew Slater has been like a 15-time Pro Bowler, but they don't really, you don't really notice him.
At first, I thought Kirk Cousins was a bit surprising that he made like the initial like he's not an alternate or anything. He's on the first batch, the starters, I guess, for the NFC. Because me and you, I think we would agree that this hasn't been one of his better years statistically. Um,
Mhm.
he's doing better situationally, and the Vikings are winning, so that's what you want. But I was kind of surprised. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I guess everyone sees that he's playing better as well too. I thought maybe more people would have gone with like Dak Prescott or now that I think of it, there's not a whole lot more to choose from in the NFC. You got Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, uh, Tom Brady's playing
Jalen
okay.
Hurts.
Yeah, he's already on there. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Him and Geno
Yes.
Smith are on there as well. The Vikings also had some alternates for the Pro Bowl, a bunch of alternates actually. First alternates. So I guess these are the players that if people drop out, they don't want to participate in the Pro Bowl games or whatever they are. These are the first replacements in line from the Vikings. First alternates are Dalvin Cook, C.J. Ham, Daniil Hunter, and Kane Wongwu. Second alternates are Garrett Bradbury, Christian Darrisaw, and Harrison Smith. And then third alternates are Eric Kendricks, and then a favorite of the show, Mr. Chris Boyd. Any of those surprise you, or do you feel like any of those deserve to be on the first like actual Pro Bowl roster?
I'm surprised Chris Boyd didn't make it after all the campaigning he did on Twitter, sending out autograph signed jerseys. Like, I mean, I've said it before. He seems like a decent dude. He's just a little eccentric on the football field.
Yeah.
But sending out the jerseys and everything, he got that done. And
Mhm.
like we've said before on the show, like I heard the story, like, like players on the Wild have to buy their own jerseys in
Right.
order to get them for charity events and stuff. So it might not have come cheap to Mr. Boyd to be a third alternate. I think Patrick Peterson's the biggest snub, though. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know the exact number. I can look it up right now, but I was doing some work for a Bring Me the News piece and looking at coverage grades. Patrick Peterson's like a top 10 corner, if not top 5 this year. So I think that he's really resurrected his career
Mhm.
after the last couple of seasons where he might not have been quite there. I'm actually just filling time as I look up the coverage grades, where he is third in the NFL among cornerbacks with 20% of the league lead in snaps. So, I mean, according to PFF, who we'll talk about a little bit later, Patrick Peterson is having a tremendous year. So that is that is a little bit surprising that he's not on this list. Other than that, there's not really a lot. Christian Darrisaw would have been a nice one. He, unfortunately, he had the concussion and that kind of derailed his campaign. But other than that, I mean, I think that those 5 are pretty much it. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'd go with Darisaw as well. I think he's Patrick Peterson's a good one as well. I feel like Peterson's played better this year than Harrison Smith, so it's kind of surprising to see that
Yeah,
uh, he's on there over there. I think you can make a case for Brian O'Neill. I think he's had a good year as well. But I know the initial Pro Bowl roster only has I think only 3 offensive tackles, so guys are gonna get omitted, especially because they're gonna pick who's the dude with the 49ers? Left tackle,
Trent
big guy.
Williams.
Yeah, he's gonna get it no matter what. Um, and I think you could make a case for Ryan Wright. I think he's had for a rookie.
Oh yeah.
I think he's had a very good year as a punter. Not throwing the ball, but that's not his job. So he's a punter. I think he's second in the league in punts inside the 20, behind the punter who I believe actually was selected for the NFC roster, which is like Tress Way from the Commanders. But he's had a very good year, and I think you can make the case for that. So it's surprising that him, Peterson, and O'Neill weren't even, I guess third alternates or whatever. There's like so many, and Peterson doesn't even get any of that. Maybe there's maybe a little bit of I don't know, animosity around the league. Of the people see what's going on with the Cardinals, and Peterson and stuff between there, and they're like, let's just not do that. But whatever. So that's it. That's Pro Bowl rosters, Pro Bowl games rosters. Nobody still has any idea what's going on, but there you go. I'm gonna assume those guys who made the Pro Bowl roster get their bonus, because I'm sure they had incentives in their contracts before they changed the Pro Bowl that you get a certain extra amount of money if you make the Pro Bowl roster. So I'm assuming that's why they're still kind of doing all this. You made the Pro Bowl, but you didn't. But you did. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the only reason it still exists.
Mhm.
Like, and honestly, too, if we're being honest with ourselves, I just double mentioned myself, but that's okay. Like, you know, compared to most other sports, the skill position things are more fun anyway. Like, I would rather watch the dunk contest than the NBA All-Star game, although
Yeah.
you can argue the NBA All-Star
Some
game is the
years.
actual dunk contest
Yeah.
some years. Like the 3-point shooting contest is always fun. NHL, like they have the skills competition. Like Trevor Zegras was like dressed like one of the dodgeball dudes, like going through a maze of
That's
dodgeballs
hardest
blindfolded.
slap shot. They
Like,
still do that.
yeah, they do hardest shot. I mean, I think they do fastest skater still, which is pretty
Yeah.
awesome to see. Just
Yeah,
to see two guys like race across the ice, like those are more fun to me. I mean, honestly, like the Pro Bowl last year, it was just unwatchable. Like if it,
Oh yeah.
and I
It
don't know,
was
I think
flag
this will be
football
more
already.
fun. Yeah, and I mean, I think flag football will be pretty fun. I do remember. I don't know if you remember this, but they used to have like a beach volleyball competition. But like Robert Edwards, like
Robert Edwards.
completely,
Yep.
yeah, completely shredded his knee in
Yep.
it, and they're like, yeah, no more beach volley. So I don't know. This is
Don't play on
probably
the beach.
safer, but
Yeah, don't play on the
yeah,
beach.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching back in the day. They used to have the quarterback competition. That wasn't even like part of the Pro Bowl. It was just like separate, and they used to have like, and Dante Culpepper was in it, and he'd throw like 70 yards.
Yeah.
And they had that, and I always enjoyed that. So I hope they do some of that stuff this year. They've tried the last few years with like the dodgeball and the whatever, throwing into the circus or whatever they had there. I don't even know what that was, but um, I'm interested to see what they do. And you know what? People will watch. People watch the Pro Bowl. So
Right.
they don't have to worry about that. More people watch the Pro Bowl than like the World Series. So they know people are gonna watch. But people are definitely gonna watch the Super Bowl this year, which is something that I guess people still, Vikings are 11-3, NFC North champs. People still not really on board with the Vikings as a possibility in the Super Bowl. Football Outsiders, a analytics website, does a lot of analyst deep dives. They have the DVOA thing over there, and their latest Super Bowl odds go like this: number 1 is the Eagles, number 2 is the Bills, number 3 is the Niners, number 4 is the Chiefs, number 5 is the Bengals, number 6 Cowboys, number 7 the Ravens, number 8 the Dolphins, number 9 the Lions, and then tied for 10th with a 0.4% chance to win the Super Bowl this year right now, the Jaguars, the Bucks, the Giants, and the Vikings. What? All
All
right. All right. How many teams should truly have better Super Bowl odds than the Vikings at this point in the season, regardless of formula or percentage or whatever? How many do you think?
I'm still like trying to do Steiner math after all of that. Like normally you got a 50% chance of winning the Super Bowl, but Justin Jefferson's genetic freak, so you got a 25% chance at best.
Yeah.
All right, let's think about it here. Like who could we realistically say has a better chance? I would say the Eagles. I
Yep.
would say the Chiefs.
Okay.
The Bills probably.
All right.
Really a lot of NFC teams. Like the Cowboys, I think have a better chance.
Okay.
Although they have to go on the road in week 1. So I mean that might kind of
Mhm.
ding them a little bit, even if it is against a bad NFC South team.
Mhm.
The
The
49ers,
Niners?
I'd put them ahead.
Yeah.
I know. I'm kind of backing down, walking that back a little bit, but I mean that
Defense. They
defense.
got a really good defense.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think they're egregiously high. Like the Lions? Like, is Jonathan Vilma like a source of this? You gotta love
I
these
don't,
Lions there, Kenny. They're just the greatest team ever. I just love watching them all the
I
time.
don't,
The Lions and Dan Campbell, he loves football. Have you heard about Dan Campbell?
yeah, I think it's some of it's based on like their own formulas like DVOA and stuff. But yeah, which favors the Lions, who have been playing really well recently. But to have teams like the Ravens and Dolphins ahead of the Vikings, and then have the Jags and Bucks tied. Well, like, how can you think that the Bucks have the same Super Bowl odds as the Vikings because they have Tom Brady? That hasn't really made a difference this year. They're not a good team. And the Jaguars, okay, they beat the Cowboys last week, and they're all right. But do you really think they have the same Super Bowl odds as the Vikings?
The Ravens are the most annoying team to the NFL to me. Like even more so than the 49ers. Like like 49ers, like I just said, you can be like, look at their defense. And you go, yeah, all right. Yeah, that's a house. The Ravens, you have Lamar Jackson, you can't figure out how to use him. Better yet, you can't figure out how to find a receiver to get him the damn ball. It's like, well, we got tight end, we got Mark Andrews and like all these guys. Like, I will never forget, like during, I think it was the 2020 NFL draft, Jim Harbaugh, everybody's remote, everybody's sitting in their house,
Mhm,
and the Ravens select Devin Duvernay, and they cut to John Harbaugh, and he's like fist pumping like he just won the freaking lottery. And I'm like, what do you see here? Like, what do
mhm,
you, and it goes back like years, like
mhm,
Rashad Perriman,
mhm,
Mark Clayton.
mhm,
Like there are other receivers there that they just see something in and nothing. And like, I'm not even going to ding Rashad Bateman because I saw what he could do at the University of
mhm,
Minnesota. I know he's a good receiver and he's battled a lot of injuries, but like everybody that they just bring in is a complete head scratch. They are so desperate. They brought in Sammy Watkins.
mhm,
They brought in the Packers scraps.
mhm.
Just like, what are you doing? But it, I also feel like it's almost cool to not like the Vikings right now. And I know no analyst is actually thinking like that, but you and I were talking about the show
Well,
about, well, you and I were talking before the show about Sam Monson saying he thought Kirk Cousins had a bad game on Saturday, and he threw for over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he had that massive comeback in the second half.
hold on, I'll say this. He
Maybe
didn't say he didn't say he had a bad game. He said he didn't play that well. I'll just say that.
right.
I don't wanna put words in his mouth because I'm sure he would just be like, "I didn't say he had a bad game." So,
Well, and if he's looking at the first half, maybe he turned off the game like the rest of us after the first half. He's
yep,
like, I'm
yep,
not going to learn anything here.
yep.
But like every national analyst, it's like, no, the Vikings suck. I hate it. Like Colin Cowherd, who put the Vikings on 14 wins at the beginning of the year and might be
16.
right. Yeah, 16. Sorry. Put the Vikings on 16 wins this year. And it is dangerously close to being right. He won't be, but I mean, he got a lot closer than a lot of us thought he would.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, he's out here being like, yeah, Kirk, he doesn't throw the best ball out of everybody and everything else or something along those lines. Like, it's just like, it's gotten to a point where I don't know. I know it's not directed from higher up, but it almost feels like PFF. It's like every analyst just is like, I don't believe in the Vikings. Like, it's the same reason they call Danielle Hunter Danielle. Like, everybody does it. Like, I don't know if they sat down at a meeting and just like, we're going to call this guy Danielle. And like, Vikings PR is like, actually, it's Danielle. No, it's Danielle. We've decided. We are Pro Football Focus, and we decide everything. They decide people's contracts at Pro
mhm.
Football Focus. And I'm not slamming them because I'll
Oh, yeah.
use their metrics. I used it earlier in this podcast
Yep,
referencing Patrick Peterson's coverage
yep.
grade. But I mean, it's just, it's kind of weird how like they are the authority and they have the analytics and the Vikings aren't good. And everybody just kind of nods in agreement without actually watching the game. I said it earlier this week. This is not a team that's going to be violent ballet, like offensive,
Mhm. Juggernaut.
offensive efficiency, big defense, mastermind coaching. No, this is going to be a team that wins a street fight. They're going to bring a little red wagon full of weapons and they're going to break out the barbed wire and the chainsaws and try and
Mhm,
beat the hell out of you. Like, they're not going to win a game that's going to be hung in the Smithsonian. They're just
yep.
going to win a street fight. And Yeah, I think that's why all the analytics are just like, they can't keep doing this. Why can't they? And like, if the Vikings get bounced in the playoffs, and they very well could by like 30 or
Mhm.
40 points, they'll go, aha, I told you I was right. And I think that's been one of the most annoying parts of this season is because, we should just be enjoying this. Like, think of the last 2 years. It's just like, oh, well, are we going to get to 8 or 9 wins? And then if we get there, if all these things, like Mike Zimmer basically played a slot machine for 2 years, like pulling on the damn lever, just like, can I get all sevens? Like, it's good to be in a position like this, and it's good to be in a position where it's going to be a coin flip. And if you win, great. If you lose, yeah, it's disappointing. But I mean, compared to the last 2 years, just enjoy it. Like, who cares what anybody else says? There's my rant for the day.
No, that's fine. I agree. I was watching an interview with Patrick Peterson on the Pat McAfee show the other day, and he McAfee asked him like, why do you think people are still doubting the Vikings? Why do you think people don't think they're that great? And his first response, the first words out of Peterson's mouth was, he's like, I just don't think people like Kirk Cousins. And I'm like,
Yeah.
even he's like picking up on it, like. They just don't wanna like the Vikings because of Kirk Cousins, even though Kirk Cousins is playing, he's got 7 come from behind victories this year, fourth quarter comebacks or whatever. Um, there comes a point when you just gotta give a guy credit because I think a lot of people have brought this up too. If it was like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or, even Tom Brady, throwing for over 400 yards in the second half on Saturday against the Colts, regardless of the Colts record, people would have been raving and like, give this person MVP right now and everything. And it's just like, I understand those guys have maybe earned that reputation the last few years, but Kirk Cousins is playing at a different level this year. Um, and I think he deserves more credit than he's getting, and people are just falling back on old narratives. You still see the people that like post memes of people missing throws terribly, and they're like, "Oh, Kirk Cousins in prime time." It's like it doesn't work anymore. Like find a new joke or whatever. Um, but these percentages and these Super Bowl odds and the PFF stuff, like, is this a good season from the Vikings, or is this season from the Vikings a good example of why analytics shouldn't be like the only thing used to determine how good a team is or isn't? Like, are we weighing too much on these formulas and stuff? And should we maybe factor in a little more of like the eye test that like the Vikings they're 11-3. They're a good team. So like give them a little bit more credit.
I just want to point out before I answer, Josh Allen turned the ball over 4 times against the Vikings in that win.
Ooh.
And yet nobody's been like, they're pretenders. They're
Should have like a
whatever.
25 grade from PFF then, right?
Right. Yeah. I should look that up. I will once I'm done answering this question because that would be really interesting to me. Um, I mean, they're helpful. Like for some things, like for the average football person like you and I, like going on to PFF and looking up offensive line stats are helpful because it's something we don't notice during a game, right?
Right. Right.
But I think sometimes too, like they are like Dalvin Cook's success rate. Like we can watch Dalvin Cook and be like, yeah, something's not right because he's slamming into the back of the line. Is it the line? Is it Dalvin Cook? We don't know the exact problem, but we can like say we can identify the problem. You know what I mean? So like I think it's helpful and creates a more knowledgeable football fan. And I think that it's really good. Like 20 years ago, people would just sit down and watch football and be like, Troy Aikman is good. Not that he wasn't, but
Mhm.
I mean,
Eh,
he's very Kirk Cousins-esque,
yeah,
because he had the Great Wall of Dallas in front of him. He had Emmett Smith in the backfield and he had
yep.
Michael Irvin on the side.
I think
That's a
his
pretty good
I think
situation.
his, like, season high of touchdowns is, like, 20.
Really?
Yeah, it's very low. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think he ever threw for 30 touchdowns in a single season. I'll look that up right now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
But
it's
it's
it's a good point of
yeah,
reference, I think.
yeah, exactly. Like I think, like I said, this isn't a team that's built as and as they get going, as the Kevin O'Connell era continues, like they won't be able to be a team that just wins street fights. Like next year, if they play like this, I bet you they'll be a 500 team, like in the hunt, trying to scratch their way into the playoffs. But this year, it's worked. And you know what, too? Like, here's the other thing. looking at the schedule this year, the Vikings have played a very tough schedule.
Yeah.
Like they've had to go through the entire NFC East. They've the Colts are bad, but I mean they have some things there. I mean, they had to go to Buffalo, they had to go to Miami, they had to go across the seas to London, and then play a game the next week. Like this hasn't been some cakewalk schedule where everybody's like, well, why aren't they blowing these teams out? Well, because A, games are closer across the league, and B, their schedule has been brutal. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think sometimes people just try to be cool and just be like, I don't like the Vikings either. And Patrick Peterson, maybe it's Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Maybe it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Troy Aikman, career high, 23 touchdowns in a season.
And
Passing touchdowns.
And it was also a different era back then where more coaches were just like old school Mike Zimmer, right? Run the damn ball, run, pass, like that thing. So
his best or his career passer rating. Got any guesses for Troy Aikman?
Is it in the 80s?
Yeah.
89.6.
Oh, way too high. 81.6.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's in the Hall of Fame.
Those rings help, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But yeah, his performance in the playoffs probably has more to do with him being in the Hall of Fame than his season stats because even in the playoffs, his career playoffs, 23 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, and an 88.3 passer. So he's like, man, Super Bowl rings make a difference. So like if Eli Manning gets in there, you'll know why. That's a great argument you can make to put Eli Manning in the Hall of Fame. Just be like, Troy Aikman's in there. I think Terry Bradshaw has like similar stats as well, but that's like a totally different era.
Right. Yeah.
Where like they threw the ball 15 times a game. All right, moving on from if it's cool or not to hate on the Vikings. Saturday, the Vikings will be doing something cool. They're gonna have a whiteout in inside the stadium. There'll be a whiteout outside the stadium probably as well.
There's one right now.
Yeah, and at US Bank Stadium on Saturday against the New York Giants. I saw some pictures and we posted some on the Viking Age. The end zones are painted white. The midfield logo is painted white, which is going to make end zone rulings a lot of fun for the referees because there's like a thin purple line where like this is in bounds and this is not. You good luck figuring it out. And then the Vikings are gonna be wearing all white. So they're gonna have white cleats. It's just a dream for officials on Saturday. They're gonna be so excited to do this game. I like this, but are you a fan of something like this, or it's not really move the needle for you?
Okay, so I got to go all the way back to my college days and University of Wisconsin River Falls, D3 hockey powerhouse. I don't know if they are anymore, but when I was there, they were one of the best teams in Division 3 in the country. You could make your own jokes about that if you want. But I used to call games on the radio and I was like, kind of sitting around and I'm just like, wouldn't it be cool if we like had a whiteout? Like everybody just dressed in white, like because we were playing St. Norbert, who is basically the dynasty team of Division 3 when I was in school. They're still probably good, but I don't follow it anymore. So I'm like, I just like made an announcement on the radio. I'm like, hey, like, let's do a whiteout, like against St. Norbert, whatever. And like the Honduras people caught on board. They made a lot of money off the idea because they sold t-shirts and I didn't see a dime of that. So NIL, pre-NIL era, I guess. But yeah, it was awesome. It was a cool atmosphere and everything else. Like people, it's always kind of gets shunned in professional sports, I think, because it's like, oh, well, that's high school or that's like college stuff or whatever.
Penn
I
State
love this. Yeah, I love this. Like, I honestly, like, I thought it was just like a way to sell merchandise, and it is. Because like people like me, I threw away all my white jerseys because they're kind of getting torn apart, and I have some nicer like Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook jerseys. But like it is fun, especially after last week, having that atmosphere, having the Giants in town. I'm just envisioning everybody at US Bank Stadium in white, and just it just adds an extra layer of hype. I am supposed to go to the game, and like we had mentioned, there's a blizzard going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to go to this game. I am going to do everything in my power to
Mm-hmm.
go to this game because it is a whiteout, and it would be
Yeah.
super fun to go to. But yeah, I'm excited. How about you?
I think it's cool. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's different. It's something. I think it has a lot to do with the regime change. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
this wouldn't have happened.
Well, no, Bill Parcells loved the white uniform, the white on whites.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was that's why they wore him a whole bunch of times, because Bill Parcells liked it. I remember reading that. So go
you
ahead.
like
I'm
the
sorry for
Vikings
interrupting.
ones, or you
Yeah, the white
like
on
the
white Vikings.
okay.
Let's see.
All right.
All right, I'm
Well,
gonna Google now.
Mike Zimmer's a little. I would even give Mike Zimmer make Mike Zimmer a little more ornery than Bill Parcells, and I'm sure he was just like, "No, we're gonna play football. We don't need to worry about like, fantasy whiteout games or whatever." So I think it's cool. Yeah, it is another
Yep,
way to sell merchandise. He did say it.
yep. It said via Chris Thomason in the Pioneer Press, because who else would report that? Vikings coach Mike Zimmer has gotten an endorsement for the all rights from Hall of Fame coach Bill Parcells. Parcells and Zimmer remain in regular contact. Zimmer told reporters that Parcells liked the white on white uniform because he believed the offense could see them better. But this is, yeah, he's talking about road games. So might not be able to see them on Sunday when everything's in white. But
I do. Yeah, I do like it. I am legitimately concerned about the end zones. Like, I love that they're white, but it's going to cause a problem. It's especially if
I
the
think the
Vikings are wearing
Bengals had a white end zone earlier this year, didn't they? It was like
for
white with the
for
black
Thursday
tiger
night.
stripes.
Yeah, because they had the Thursday night, and because they had the white helmets. I think people
Yeah.
were kind of hoping the Vikings were going to do that too this year, but maybe next year.
Mhm.
But no, I like this. I'd like to see like this be something to continue. There's other things they can do, purple out, I guess, or a black out. I would love to see black jerseys. I've always wanted the Vikings to get black jerseys. I know you're not the biggest fan of black jerseys, but I've always wanted it because I think black and purple just look so good together. Um,
That's why the Ravens have it.
correct. Are there any other maybe alternative jersey options you would like to see the Vikings explore in the future, if any?
I think you mentioned one of them. I would like to see a white helmet. I think
Mm.
out of all the options, I think that would be the one that they could go to. Having a yellow or a gold helmet just doesn't
No,
make sense.
no, no.
I think that's a little bit like, the Gophers have a metallic gold helmet, which I love, but their
Yeah,
colors are also maroon and gold.
yeah.
I don't mean to be like a part. I own plenty of black Viking stuff. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm wearing a black Vikings hat as we
Mhm.
speak, but I mean, I just think it's too Ravensy. And I mean, you can do a black uniform and it looks cool. The Gophers actually have a black uniform, and it's difficult for them because if they do the yellow numbers, they look like Iowa. But
Mhm.
it's like black and it's got like maroon trim and it's kind of cool like that. I just I you have a team that wears purple and black. So the challenge with that is, how do you distinguish yourselves when you do wear a purple and black jersey? Like that would be the challenge for me. So am I completely against it? Not really. If it looks good, I'd be on board. But like the people who walk around with like the yellow jerseys, like I used to have the yellow Randy Moss jersey
Mhm.
because that was 1998. And I remember like all the stores ran out because people
Mhm.
were just like, holy crap, it's Randy Moss. And the 98 Vikings are so awesome and everything else. So I mean, I love that gold Randy Moss jersey, but I think like as a actual alternate for the Vikings, I would hate it.
No,
I wouldn't like it very much. So they just don't have a lot of options that you could do
I
with
was
their
just
jersey.
yeah.
The other one that I would say that they could do, it's another white jersey, but bring back the 1990s throwbacks with the purple and yellow
Yeah,
stripe, or
yeah,
like even do something with the current jersey
yep,
and add those stripes like it's an
yep,
alternate road jersey.
yep,
That would be awesome too.
yep, yep,
But
yep, yep. I like that. Yeah, I like the throwbacks. I like the throwbacks that they wore like during the Favre era that were like I think they were 70s-esque
Mhm.
or whatever. Um, don't make the Favre era jerseys a throwback. Please don't ever do
No,
that.
no, 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 no.
People I keep seeing people, I love those no. No, nope, 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 nope. But yeah, I like the late 90s, early 2000s throwback idea with the at least the away jersey. I love those jerseys. I was just looking some things up, and I forgot the Lions had a black uniform way back in the day, with like the
Yeah.
Joey Harrington days and Kelvin Johnson days. Um, I like the Niners black uniforms. There's some other teams that do them as well. I would love to see it, but I won't get my hopes up. But yeah, I think it'd be cool. Just another way to do something cool. It kind of psychs. I feel like in a way, it kind of psychs the opponent out, where they're more focused on what's going on in the crowd and all the things that they're doing instead of like having their focus on the game. Like Dan Campbell would be like,
Do the wave in the whiteout, just
"Whoa,
like,
whoa."
whoa, this is awesome. As like, one's playing in his
Dan,
headset.
do you want to kick from the 50? You want to attempt a field goal from the 50? What? Yeah.
Hold my breath as I wish for death. Oh, please, God, wake me.
Yeah, sure. Do it. Throw it to the offensive tackle. Do
Uh,
whatever you want. Yeah, do whatever you want. Oh, Dan Campbell. Hey, you know what? The Lions are good this
uh,
year, so he's gonna stick around for at least another year.
yeah.
All right, the Vikings are playing the Giants, as we mentioned, on Saturday. I believe right now the FanDuel has the line at 3.5. The Vikings are favored. That's always good. Um, favored by 3.5, and the over/under is something like 47 or 48. So, just pretty much a typical. Like I feel like all these lines for the Vikings and over/unders are basically the same
Mhm.
uh, every week, which they play close games. So Vegas is like, we don't really want to mess around. Um, the Giants are 8-5-1. The Vikings are 11-3. Giants are coming off a win over the Commanders, a controversial win over the Commanders, thanks to some referee mistakes. But they make mistakes, we know that. But they have just one win in their last 5 games. They started out 6-1, and now they're 8-5-1. So the Vikings will beat the Giants on Saturday if what happens.
They don't get in their own way. Like, I think one of the big things and the reason why the Vikings fell behind so early against the Colts was because they just handed the Colts elite field position on the first 2 or 3
Right,
drives of the
right.
game. So it like the Vikings defense only allowed one offensive touchdown. And I feel like this Giants offense is very similar to what the Colts have. They have a
Yeah, they're not
quarterback
good.
who's a little bit more mobile, a little bit more
Yep.
spry, but I mean, their receivers are not anything to write home about. I
Can you
think they
name
lead the NFL in
can you name
drops.
2 receivers on the Giants?
Darius Slayton and I'm looking at my notes. I actually didn't write down 2, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't
Juan
know.
Wandale
Richie
Robinson.
James,
There you go, there you go.
Wandale Robinson, 165-pound, 5'7" receivers, and he's hurt. Who knew that would
Yeah,
happen?
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, it's just really, if the Vikings don't self implode at the beginning of the game and don't need 5 touchdowns, as Patrick Peterson said, they will win this game because there is very little on this offense that scares me. And like all the defensive things tilt in favor of the Vikings. There's,
yeah.
the run defense is a very big problem, especially on the edges. That's good news for Dalvin Cook. And the Giants secondary is bagged up as well because they won't have a Dory Jackson because they used him on punt returns. So Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, those guys are going to see Nick McLeod and Foster Moreau.
Good luck.
Yeah,
Good luck.
good luck with that. Actually, I think Foster Moreau is the tight end. It's something
Yeah,
Moreau,
yeah.
but
It's for the Raiders.
yes.
Um, yeah. I had something similar, like, don't beat yourself, don't give the Lions, you know, short field position for no reason. I think the Vikings went for 4th down early in the Colts game and didn't get it. I think they did something similar in the Lions game where they went trying to get a 4th down their own side of the field, and it's like, I get that you're trying to set the tone early and stuff, but also just be smart and just, you got a good punter. He can punt the ball to the one. And then you have even better field position on your next play. So like just don't like I feel like Kevin O'Connell's been coaching against himself the last few weeks where he's just kind of just getting in his own head, and I think that second half maybe helps. Like just get the ball to our best players, stop messing around, just do what we got to do, and hopefully that helps. But definitely run the ball. The Giants ranked 32nd in yards per carry allowed. But also you said like the edges are going to be open and stuff. Get creative with your runs. Don't just run Dalvin Cook up the middle because I feel like that's just been kind of what they've been doing. Like hopefully they open up a hole and hopefully he can find it. And it's like, well, he's fast. We saw in the screenplay he's fast. Let him go to the outside, or run some guys in motion. Give Jalen Rager the ball, maybe. You know, don't have him run a route, but you can give him a jet sweep. He can do that. He can make some moves in the open field. And then stay aggressive on defense. The Vikings, in the second half at least, were way more aggressive than they have been all year long. I saw they played a lot more man coverage. They blitzed a lot more. And guess what? It worked. Was it
Wow.
against the Colts offense that wasn't that great? Yeah, but a bunch of offenses the Vikings have faced that have been that great have looked really good against the Vikings this year because they've just been like, here you go. Here's the wide open player. Go right ahead. And you know what? Let Duke Shelley keep playing. I don't care if Cameron Daniels is healthy. Let him keep playing. He's earned it. They're playing better with him, I feel like, on the field. Let him stay on there until he messes up and you need to pull him. But yeah, stay aggressive on defense. Keep because in the playoffs you're going to need that. You can't just sit back and let teams just destroy you. You need to be aggressive. And this is a perfect 3-game stretch for them to figure that out and work some things out for the playoffs. So let's do those things and they should be able to win. But the Vikings will lose to the Giants on Saturday if what happens?
It's going to be protecting Kirk Cousins. I think he is going to be the sorry, I just got an update from South Dakota saying, don't leave the house, man.
Oh, no.
So I don't know. Hopefully I'll make it on Saturday, but if not, it's going to be a beer and wrestling Christmas in Brookings.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah, little Royal Rumble binge watching season. I got by the way, I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm rocking the Bret Hart hoodie from Homage today, which is one of my most prized possessions. They gotta protect Kirk Cousins. Because this Giants pass rush is a problem. Kayvon Thibodeau is starting to figure it out. They move him around. So if you're expecting Kayvon Thibodeau against Christian Darrisaw all game, that's not going to happen because they're going to try and throw him into the middle of the offensive line, especially one that is down Garrett Bradbury. So that is no bueno. Yeah, I mean, Dexter Lawrence is there, who I really want to call Dexter Loomis on the tip of my tongue.
I thought you were just going to say that.
Yeah. We have a problem, man. Rick Ross, though. How about that last night?
Whoops. Live TV.
He's a big man. Yeah. But yeah, I think protect Kirk and just don't get in your own way. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. I make it sound so simple, but also make sure you find yourself in the sea of white that's going to be at US Bank Stadium.
But. Yeah. I would recommend actually wearing white cleats because I think they're gonna be like they're gonna watch the replay and be like, this is inconclusive. We have no idea if his foot is in bounds or not. So
wear purple cleats, you're saying?
No, wear white.
Wear white. Oh,
confuse
I see,
them.
Yeah.
So if they're like if they call like a touchdown and the Giants are like, we want that reviewed or whatever, I guess it automatically gets reviewed, so the Giants wouldn't have to do that. But like they review it and they're like, this is inconclusive. We can't even tell where his feet are because they're just white cleats, white uniforms, white everything. We just can't see. So I think the Vikings will lose if they fall behind by a large margin again. Not as severely as last week. If they do, like last week, it's still because the Giants are a better team than the Colts. They started 6-1 for a reason. They have a much better head coach. They have a head coach who's actually was an assistant coach before he became a head coach in the NFL. Was even probably an intern in the NFL before he became an NFL head coach, unlike the last guy they just faced. So he's going to make better decisions than Jeff Saturday did last week. So I think falling behind is not going to be as easy to come back against the Giants as it was against the Colts. And don't underestimate Daniel Jones. I think
Yeah.
people are like, he's not that great of a quarterback, and it's like you give him some like he can run though. Like he's averaging 40 rushing yards a game this year. Like people don't really like you hear about Josh Allen, hear about Lamar Jackson, you hear about Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts. Daniel Jones is and up at that level of like being able to gain yards with his legs. So like that's got to be something that's in the back of the Vikings mind when they think they got Daniel Jones like in their grasp and he can just get out of the pocket and get a first down easily. So they got to have a plan for that. I saw Brian Asamoah played a bunch of snaps last week, so I'm curious to see if they do that again to help with trying to contain Daniel Jones. All right, you got a score prediction for Saturday?
Pain, like Clubber Lang in Rocky 3. Is that 3? Where was
I
Clubber? Was he in 2 or 3?
You're asking the wrong person because
4. I know 4 is the mint one because Rocky comes back and beats Drago.
I think the last time I watched Rocky, I was under 10 years old. So
Yeah. The Drago one's the best though.
if I die,
Like,
I
out of
die.
all of them.
That's
Yeah.
the only reason I know that is because of some certain quarterback.
And he murders Apollo Creed. But 27-20 Vikings. I am pushing the edge of the Viking spectrum of winning because the Giants have not scored over 24 points since they beat the Packers earlier this season.
Oh, wow.
And is the only time that they have scored over 24 points. So
Okay.
the Vikings can get over 24 points. And like I said, Giants problems on defense fall right into the Vikings' lap. I'm going to stretch it to the outer limits and say 27-20 Vikings in the whiteout.
I've got 29-22, so the same 7-point margin. The Vikings just play close games, and the Giants aren't terrible. So, but I still think the Vikings will pull out a win here. There's nothing that really blows me away with the Giants. I would look forward to playing them again in the first round of the playoffs, because that's what the matchup is. Because I feel like they're heading in the right direction. I like Brian Dable. I think I told you before the season, like, watch out for the Giants. I think they're going to be pretty good, and they're pretty decent. So I think they're heading in the right direction, but the Vikings are just a better team right now. And these last few games when they're playing opponents that they're supposed to be better in, I just worry about guys staying healthy. So my hope is just that people like Justin Jefferson or Kirk Cousins or even Dalvin Cook, like, just stay healthy. Don't get hurt. Because Justin Jefferson is taking a beating the last few weeks. And Kevin O'Connell made sure to bring that up and be like, hey, refs, just want to keep an eye on that for me. Thank you. Let me do that.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting to see. But yeah, Vikings should win on Saturday, Christmas Eve. Nice early Christmas present for everybody. And then on Christmas, we'll get to watch the Broncos play the Rams, the Cardinals play the Bucks, and the Packers play the Dolphins, which could be actually interesting.
Banger after banger after banger.
I mean, I think it's the Bucks is it's Tom Brady versus Trace McSorley for the Cardinals now. And the Rams Broncos is like Mark Rippon versus Baker Mayfield. But then the Packers and Dolphins might actually be interesting. But yeah, it's
so what you're saying is I'm probably just gonna play NCAA all day.
Yeah, I'm happy my son's born on Christmas, so I'm happy that his birthday is gonna prevent me from watching any of those garbage games. But yeah, happy holidays to everyone. This end of this show. We'll be back probably on Monday with another episode, hopefully to recap the Vikings win. Once again, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like this video. Follow the Vikings on Twitter and Facebook, and the audio version of this podcast will be available by tomorrow morning on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. But until next time, Chris and I will talk to you later.